Hello and welcome. In today's exciting episode, I am going to show you everything I made way back in July, August and September of this year.
It's perfect.
Oh, it seems like so long ago.
Perfect jacket.
So let's get right into this. I didn't really make many things, but first up we have the peach. Well, it's actually all different coloured pastels, this tweed. It's a Linton tweed from the UK, and it's sort of white, pink, blue and peach, but you can mainly see the peach. And yeah, because the peach is flagged. And then on top of that, I've embellished it with lots of beads and sequins. And it's sort of like a sampler. So if you've been to the museum, in the fine arts section, they often have, from the past centuries, they often have embroidery samplers, and there's just different clusters of different types of stitches. But yeah, this is a beading one and it's on a jacket. It is technically a wearable jacket, but for me it's most useful as a reference garment. And I got to use my big glass bubble beads for the first time. They're just really big and thin glass. So yeah, I've always been hesitant to use them, but I finally used them on this and they look absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I kind of really itching to use the rest of them. I guess I might wear it one day. But yeah, for me it's useful as a reference document, and a really good tool to see what wears in what way, because there's some really heavy stuff there and some really light things, and I just like the interaction, and also just knowing what they look like on, rather than beads just sitting on the table look very different to what they look like on, and what they look like with other things. So yeah, I love this section here with the big glass pearls and the little sequin flowers coming up between them. With a lot of the petals, I sort of pushed them so that they look like an opening flower rather than a fully open one. So yeah, that one was interesting and hard work to make, but yeah, I love it. Okay, so next we have, I only had a couple of yards of this Italian silk, and yeah, I used it on this one, orange one. I call it the orange one. It's got loads of different colours, but it mostly looks orange when you wear it outside during the day or at night. It sort of has a real orange to it. So this is the Linton tweed. It's sort of a bone natural coloured tweed, and then it's interwoven with all different coloured other specialty novelty yarns. And then, as if that wasn't colourful enough, I decided that I had to overbead it with loads and loads of different beads. So it's just a mix of things, like there's some kids beads in there, some little angel fish, some other plastic flowers, some heavy glass beads, opaque as well as transparent, and there's a few plastic ones in there as well, just to lighten it up, because you can't just use glass beads, it would be too heavy. And also your eye needs to sort of skip and notice other things. There's one angelfish on there and he's swimming sideways. The rest are going up and down. And yeah, it's like in Vincent van Gogh, you know how there's the one iris that's white and the rest are all blue. So yeah, he's swimming the wrong way, but he's quite happy about it. So yeah, there's only one on the entire jacket that's doing that. So he's under the left elbow. So yeah, I'm sure that's vital knowledge for everyone. But yeah, and I also handmade this fringe, and this the yarns that I've used in this are also from Linton Tweeds. They used to sell the yarns, and but just because of the nature of they only make enough yarns to use in their own tweeds, and then they just discontinue lines. And yeah, I think all the knitters who used to buy their yarns used to complain too much, so they stopped selling their yarns, because yeah, the knitters would use like 4 balls of a certain yarn, and then they'd go to the website and try and buy more, and it had all been sold out, because you know there's only a limited amount of everything. That's the whole point of tweed. There's only ever 10 or 20 or 100 meters of it ever made. That's it. And they didn't quite, so sadly they stopped selling it. But I got to use some, so that was cool. So next up we have it's a Chanel tweed, and I've only got 4 Chanel tweeds in navy. This is one of them, and it's kind of one of the more conservative ones. It's just white and navy, and there's also some sort of purpley and dark blue and black in there. And I really like it. It's quite I guess boring, for want of a better word, but I did the beading so that it looks. Oh, this one's got fringe as well. But it's just 4 strips of the actual Chanel fabric, and then I've just pulled out the one lot of thread, so like the warps there, but at the weft is being pulled out. And the beading is supposed to look like when you go out on a porch and you stand under it, and it's all the snow sort of dumps down on you. It's my snow dump one. But it's just I really don't have that much use for white beads, I guess. And this is one of the rare times that I could use them. So I just got to use all these amazing beads. And and there's also some tiny little ceramic skulls in there. And there's I think 9 or 10 that you get that's how they're sold, in little lots. And so they're in there. And I love this one. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I am so happy with the way that it turned out. And I also love those big gobstopper or bubble gum ball size beads. They're actually quite heavy because they're solid plastic. And I think they look quite tacky sometimes, but in this situation, I think they look gorgeous, and they sort of also protect the those fragile ceramic ones. So I was really happy with the way that turned out. And next, I've got to move this diva dress off her mannequin so I can use it. The next one was a plain black dress. And I think, Gabrielle Chanel was born in August. So, in August, I decided I would do a little black dress, I think. And, so I was going to do a different dress. I was going to do the 1939 one, but I was like, I don't want to mess that up as my first dress. So I did this quite simple one first instead. And it's got a little bit of elastic at the back. So instead of having any closures or anything, it has this bit of elastic. And I guess it's not very glamorous, but I mean, who on earth is staring at your lower back, really? That's quite creepy. So I think it's fine just as far as plain black dresses go. I think it's really nice. And I'm glad it turned out well, because I went on to make loads of other dresses, and if it hadn't turned out well, then I probably would have just stuck to jackets, I think. Oh, I'm looking at my notes. This was in September, actually, this video, and it's McCall's 7381, that dress. Okay, so next up we have, I think I'm going slightly out of order here because this was back in July. It's the Monet, the pastel one with all the beads. So this was after I did the orange one. I was like, again. And so I bought enough of this lint and tweed fabric to make 3 jackets, or I could have made a suit. And, but I just never wear suits. I wear a Chanel style jacket with jeans and a t-shirt. That's pretty much my uniform. So I was like, if I make 3 jackets, I will actually wear all 3 of those more than I would wear a suit. So that's why I ended up making 3 different ones. One is just plain with a teal beaded trim. and then there's the orange one with the fringe, and now there's this one, which is, I call it the Monet one, but it's basically just in pastel colours. And yeah, I got a bit bored while I was doing it, so there's noughts and crosses games, and yeah, very rarely do you see 3 in a row. A lot of the time you see 2 in a row, 2 in a row. So yeah, this is one of the only jackets where there's 3 in a row. Every other jacket, I don't think I've ever done an actual 3 in a row. So yeah, but yeah, I often, because beading takes hundreds of hours. Some jackets, you know, they just take an exceptional amount of time. And yeah, so the Monet one, the pastel one, I originally was just going to do bugle beads on that, but then after I finished this one, absolutely adore the way this orange one turned out. Then yeah, this was the next jacket up, and I was like, oh, I have to do more of that sort of beading. So I sort of fished around and found loads of pastel smaller beads that would fit in the sort of box created by the bugle beads and the actual colourful threads, yarns in the fabric. Yeah, I found all these beads, and yeah, I made that. So yeah, I'm so happy with the way this turned out. It's phenomenal. It's one of my favourite regular wear jackets. Zoom. Okay, what do we have next? It's a non-jacket. So yeah, it's this is a quilting fabric, and yeah, it was just, I think they only had 1.5 yards of this. And because yeah, if you go to quilting stores, they usually, if whoever buys the last bit of the fabric, you know, and there's less than 3 yards left, then they'll put the rest in clearance. So sometimes in clearance you can find 3 whole yards of something, which is enough for a dress, but sometimes you only find 2 yards or 1.5, which is, or even less, which is like you can get a shirt out of it. So yeah, I made that 3/4 length shirt, and yeah, I'm really happy with it, and I think it looks gorgeous with the pastel jackets. And then next up we have this Chanel tweed in 2 different greens and pink. And it does not photograph well. From far away, it looks sort of this murky colour, like baby puke or something. But oh, and there I am with the angelfish again, and I love them. They're sort of, if you the beads are like the ocean, then they're sort of jumping up like dolphins out of the ocean. Yeah, I get very bored sometimes when I'm beading. So there's these little stories woven in there, and yeah, I go back years later and I'm like, God, you're an idiot. But yeah, I still know, like, I know what I was reading at the time, I know what I was writing at the time, I know what I was, you know, if I watched a television show or a movie or something. And yeah, I love how the fabric of your life gets woven into what you're making at the time. I really love how, you know, it's got this whole world of history to it. And yeah, but you're the only one who sort of understands and can tap into it. Anyway, so this is the jacket, and I don't really like it because all the weight is at the bottom, and I have really big hips and quite small shoulders, so I don't want extra weight on my hips at any time. So yeah, I think I might redo the beading on that one. I'm not sure. I've sort of left it, but yeah, I might redo it. I'm not sure. I'll wear it a few times before I figure it out. Now, this one was actually done in October, but I need to pack it in the same storage container as my floral one, which is the next one you're going to see. So I decided to put this into the third quarter quarterly review rather than the last one for the year. So again, I got to use my beautiful glass beads, which are very fragile. So yeah, I only used a couple of them. But yeah, this was an upcycle challenge, and I read the post wrong. Well, I read the post right, but then they had this other separate rule sheet that I didn't see. So I thought you could use anything and upcycle it into a garment. And it turns out you had to use like a bed sheet or thrift store clothing, or so you had to use like real fabric, not, you know, something random. Like this is the bubble wrap that I bought some glassware, and when they sent it, it was wrapped in this bubble wrap. So yeah, I had 5 sheets of bubble wrap, and that's it. So I could make it a cropped jacket. So yeah, that's what I did with it. And technically, it was quite a challenging exercise. So yeah, it was interesting to do. And then I went on to make the Comme des Garçons inspired jacket. So I think if I hadn't have done that bubble wrap one, then I probably wouldn't have done the Comme des Garçons one. So yeah, I think it was useful to me as, someone who's doing this as a hobby. But yeah, or a creative outlet, whatever. And then we have the floral jacket, which was actually quite early in October. And so normally my jackets have 4 panels at the front. So I don't know why I picked this jacket. That's my favorite jacket. That's probably why I picked it. But yeah, so they normally have 4 panels, but this one only has like the front panel on either side is the front center panel is like almost just a strip rather than a full panel. So that, yeah, I don't look like a total flower bowl. You can actually see that there's a person underneath it. So yeah, so I made the jacket, and then the jacket's made out of muslin and netting. And I've got some footage of it. It's 2 layers of netting, which is the green, and then a layer of black muslin over the top. I think you might call it cheesecloth. Anyway, it's really, really loosely woven, very delicate cotton and cotton fabric. And yeah, it's so light, it sort of just floats, and it doesn't want to sit down and stay where it's supposed to be. So it's actually really frustrating to work with, but it looks beautiful. And I'm really, again, it was technically challenging. So plus I got this footage, and in every jacket I've made since, for every video, I can use this bit here to show how I stitch the seam allowance of the shoulder seam in from the outside, but while holding it on the inside. So yeah, at least I have that. So yeah, anyway, after I made the jacket, then I put on the flowers, and I used the big flowers first, then some medium flowers, and I also put on these bead clusters. So I hand make the bead clusters myself. There's like 2 big beads on the inside, and then you sort of loop over smaller beads, the seed beads, but they're quite delicate in and of themselves. So then I had to wrap them in this beige tulle netting and sort of do it so that it looked invisible, and they just look like natural beads. And then once that was all stitched together, then I had to stitch the bead cluster to the jacket. And oh my goodness, I think I ended up using 38 or 40, no 40, yeah. And so the jacket is actually quite heavy, but it looks awesome. It looks so awesome, and it sits beautifully on the body. It sort of looks like it's perched or something, or it's just, I don't know, it just looks so careless. Or yeah, but yeah, every single thing is stitched into place. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. It's super cropped, the jacket, so you can see the waist, and and the neckline is quite far off the actual neck, sits quite far off. So yeah, I did all that I could to make it look less like a hedge of flowers and more like, there's an actual person under there. But yeah, and the daffodils, and I just love all the different flowers that I used, and the way that they're used. So there's little clusters of certain flowers, and then the big ones are I did them first just to block out big blocks. And then I right at the end, I fished out some ivy leaves, those 2-tone ivy leaves, and I was so tempted to keep putting more in because I thought they looked awesome. But yeah, I luckily stopped at the right point. So there's quite a few, I think there's 6 in there, 6 little sprigs of them. But yeah, and it was great fun to make, but it took an absolute age. So yeah, and oh my gosh, because it's all hand sewn, obviously, and everything is, it's just, the amount of work is just unbelievable. But yeah, my fingers were so sore because I don't use thimbles or anything like that. I just do, most beaders don't. We're sort of We're too cool for things like that. But yeah, so yeah, my fingers were quite sore by the end because you have to use quite sharp needles, and beading needles are very sharp at both ends just because of how thin they are. And yeah, oh, I'm just in pain remembering how much pain I was in doing this, but I am so happy with the way that it turned out. It's lovely. And I really, really want to make another one, but making dresses just is so much quicker. And yeah, so I think I'll just make dresses for a little bit. And last we have my favorite. I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but this is absolutely my favorite. This just, I love it so much. This is an Edinburgh jacket, and so it's a Chanel tweed. This is the inside of the jacket, and so you can see it's just all different sort of colours, sort of very found object, but the most blingest possible version of that. And yeah, so the Chanel tweed was sort of, whenever I showed it on social media, with people like, what a waste of money, that's hideous. And I was like, oh, I know your potential. I know you can be fabulous. And then, yeah, this is how it ended up. It wasn't always going to look like this. Oh, I love those stone beads. They're polished stone. And there's also some that look like kiwi fruit. They're brown on the outside and then green on the inside. They're just adorable. I think I bought 9 or 10. I can't remember. But yeah, and there's a mix of plastic, metal and glass beads in there, and some are electroplated, so the sort of metallic plating on them, and loads of just really, because it's a Chanel tweed, I wanted to make it very, very really high quality. But I've also mixed some lighter sort of plastic beads in there too, because I just think the juxtaposition is hilarious. So yeah, sorry, I wasn't always going to do this all over embellishment. See how this jacket has its fringe that I made, and it matches exactly the jacket. Well, I was going to do the same thing with the Chanel tweed I call it the Luxe Junkyard tweed, because that's sort of, yeah, what I landed on for the name of the actual tweed. And yeah, so this is just a bunch of different yarns, just expensive ones. Again, I think a lot of them came from Linton Tweeds back when they were still selling yarns. And yeah, I was going to have fringe around the bottom and just beaded trim in sort of goldens and browns for the Chanel. But yeah, then when you do beaded trim, like if you've seen any of my ones that I did earlier this year, they were just, the beading on those trims was just getting ridiculous. This is the purple Italian tweed. And yeah, I had round bead clusters. Some were in metallic purple, some were in wine colour. And then there's chains of bugle beads, and oh, it was just so complex and so heavy. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do the beaded trim on this one, then I just have to take the fringe off. It would just be too hard to sew on the beaded trim. So I took it off. And then, of course, I started making embellished jackets where the beading is all over. So yeah, it turns out I guess I could have the fringe on this, and I guess I could put it back on. It does look adorable, and this trim was made specifically for this tweed. And I mean, I can't buy more of this tweed. They only ever made like 100 meters of it, which is basically 110 yards. So it's long gone. And yeah, but I don't know, I like the clean silhouette of the jacket without the fringe. I mean, when the jackets have fringe, they do sort of accentuate the hips and therefore accentuate how narrow the waist is, and I do like that, obviously. But yeah, I just think there's so much going on in this jacket, and it looks exactly like Edinburgh. If you haven't seen, I'll link a card up the top, and you can, in the video where I made this jacket, I show lots of photos of Edinburgh, and you can just see the color palette is exactly what Edinburgh is. And because it's all sandstone and old trees and moss, and it's just the most beautiful city in the world. I'm very biased, but yeah, because I used to live there. And yeah, I'm just so happy with the way that it turned out. It is exactly what I wanted for this. And yeah, when I posted pictures of it on Instagram, loads of my Perfect Jacket Instagram account is quite popular. And yeah, lots of designers and people who work at wedding dress designers, that sort of, people follow it. And yeah, a lot of them went, just the comments were just so adorable. I don't think it would translate if you don't do embellishment. I don't think you'd quite understand. But yeah, there were comments about the technique behind, just the amount of knowledge that you need to make something like this look effortless is, and it was great that all these people who do that for a living appreciated it, and it just made me so happy. I got quite a few snarky comments about this jacket too. So the comments from beading professionals and people who are in the fashion industry, those comments more than made up for all the snarky, horrible things people said. But yeah, so that's 3 months worth of things that I made back in July, August and September. Wow, there was so much hard work went into each of those garments. And I'm so proud of the work I did. It's amazing. Well, thank you for watching and taking a trip with me down memory lane. And there's my favourite. There she is. It's so pretty. Even when I miss Edinburgh, I can just wear that jacket. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this glimpse at my things that I made back in July, August and September 2002.